if you're in business, then you know all about competition, right? So I want to share with you some of the things I've learned over the last 27 years of being in business. Because basically, if you kind of simplify it, competition, you're either the leader, first to market, you don't have competition, and what should you do? Or you're trying to enter an industry there that is saturated, or there's plenty of other people doing what you want to do, and how do you handle that? So I want to break that down, the two different ways, because we've had that happen here at Lazy Dog here in Key West. I've been in business 27 years, and when I first started out, there were 3 other kayak companies in town, and here I am with a brand new kayak company. And how do I establish myself? Now, Key West back in 1998 was, everything was sort of driven by who you know, and a lot, because a lot of Key West is very transient, so people were coming and going. So you really had to establish yourself, and a lot of times bookings were made for excursions by concierge. The concierge business was really big at all the hotels and concierge stands all around town. So you really had to establish yourself as a concierge. And so, the way I looked at it is somehow we have to stand out apart from all the other kayak companies, because basically we're all, even though we're in different locations around the island, we're all basically seeing the same thing. It's the same sea life. And so how could we differentiate ourselves? And thank goodness for me, it really stuck with what I'm really big on, which is the people. Having the best tour guides, and really taking care of the customers. And so in doing so, we really focused on customer service. And I got to tell you, at the time, that was lucky, because the other companies didn't at all. They were a little bit more into just show me the money. And so I look at the people part, and focusing on the people part as a long, slow growth. But anyway, we established ourselves as a people company. We're going to take care of the customers, and in turn, that reflected well on the concierge, because they suggested us, and so the people would go back and say, they had a great time. So it just worked, and we built from there. So if you are in a business and you have a lot of competition, then you want to find some sort of niche that you can stand out in, right? So let me give you a couple of examples before I move on to having no competition. If you look at, I can say there's a couple of different companies here in town, right, that fairly recently have come into the market. Now, in 2024, 25, we are much more established and a bigger company, and a lot of people know us. So how would a kayak company come in and, survive in that kind of market where there are a lot of other kayak companies around? And the best thing to do is just to find your niche. And what one company did was they just decided to do night tours, and that was their niche. I don't do night tours. A lot of other people, actually nobody else does night tours. So they were the first in that niche, and they could build their company based off of that niche, which they did. Another one was the glass bottom. We don't do glass bottom kayaks. Somebody came in and decided that was going to be their specialty, their niche. And so find your niche in a crowded market, and that's the best way to then grow from there, grow your company. Another company that did this on a grander scale is Sixes, the rent-a-car company. They've been around for a long time, but they weren't in the U.S. until 2011. So how do they come in and compete against Avis and Hertz, Dollar and Budget and Enterprise and all those guys? What they did was they just came up with a niche. They were going to do just high-end cars. They did an agreement with BMW, and they ended up expanding out of that and just doing high-end, really like premier cars for rental. And that's what they're known for. And then also the other thing they did was during COVID, I think their first location was Miami Airport. They only had a few locations, but then during COVID, when everybody was cutting back on marketing and expanding, and the travel industry was getting hit hard, Sixes actually secured, I think, about 10 more locations in airports around the country, and then they expanded from there. So they've really grown over the last 4 years. So that's another thing is, when the chips are down, the economy is struggling, it's actually a good time to jump in and grow your companies. So when it does rebound, you're sky above the rest, right? So what happens now if you enter a market and you're the first and only one doing it, right? So this happened to us in 2009. We added paddle boards to our fleet here at Lazy Dog, and we were the only ones doing tours and rentals in the Keys, and we actually had a fairly big fleet, and so everybody came to us for paddleboarding. Now, here's the thing: if you are doing something that's profitable, you will eventually have competition. It took a couple years for other companies to come in and start doing paddleboards, but everybody sees what you're doing and it's like, hey, I want some of that, and they come in and they do it, and that's totally fine, because if you're doing something right, you will have competition. The key is to A, don't take it personally, right? And B, use it just to like light a fire under your tail and just be like, yeah, I need to just keep moving and keep expanding. And you just want to always be, look at it as like being the leader. So pay attention to what the industry is doing, pay attention to what your community is doing, and find other ways and other revenue sources to expand out that part of your business, right? I mean, even the kayaking, one of the ways in kayaking that we expanded out our business was to add paddle boards, because we saw that the industry was going into paddleboarding. So you just don't, the key is really not to take it personally. You do want to know what your other, competitors are doing. Um, but that's just to educate yourself to understand what's going on in your industry. It should have nothing to do with your business, right? So always keep focusing going forward and knowing that you will have competition. So there you have my take on competition. I love talking about business, so I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel. It's free, and I've got lots to share with you here on building a business, building a brand, and building a lifestyle down here in Key West. Have a good day.